Great. So I'm generally going to come at it, I think, more from the olive end of things, because I've been raised on a diet of 70s and 80s dystopian science fiction, and we've already had Asimov being mentioned already. And I think at the moment, watching the news, we're seeing a lot of stuff going on. And I think coming back to the previous speaker as well, that issue of trust. So anyway, my name is James Kavanagh. I'm the head of land and resources at Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. I'm a chartered land surveyor by background, very much from a geography and geospatial end of things. But one thing that we've been really focusing on over the last, well, quite a long time, is around those issues of trust and those issues of liability, particularly in the use of AI-generated information. One of the things that worries us a lot is not just the skills gap and people understanding this, but also other professionals and how they understand geospatial information, how it works together. So I think one of those key elements that's coming out generally, particularly when we work within a policy context. So just this week, we've had the enormous national planning framework consultation finish, and also the land use framework go live within DEFRA, within the UK government. And one of the key elements mentioned within both those massive documents is around the use of spatial information, but also the issues of trust and the issues of interoperability. I don't think it's a case of other professionals don't understand what geospatial information is. You know, I think it's a case of they're actually slightly scared about what geospatial is and what interoperability truly is when you speak to the planning profession, for instance. We've got over 400 local authorities in the country, all with differing levels of geospatial interoperability. That's absolute chaos when you're trying to deliver 1.2 million new affordable homes, just as a basic thing that people can interact with. So I think we do stand at a very pivotal moment, and we're thinking about 30 years ahead, for instance. How are we going to trust this geospatial information, understand it, and ethically integrate it into the decisions shaping land, infrastructure, sustainability, and society? I think one of the things I've been noticing, or certainly reading about the last few days, or last few weeks, is around the use of that AI company, Anthropic, that's arguing with the US government. And it's not about what they're using AI for at the moment, it's about what they're intending to use it for within the US government. And that's around that predictive analysis end of things. Those of you who are geospatially of a certain age like me, remember that Minority Report film that we all used to ramble on about 10 years ago in all of our presentations. That was 2002 that came out in. You know, but that predictive analysis really highlights the need for trust, yeah, and ethical use of geospatial information, because Nazis would have loved spatial integration of information, you know, and I think that's something that we need to think about into the future, how that predictive analysis really works and how it's going to affect people's rights. Also, the technocratic solutions, I think I've seen them certainly in the areas we deal with within land, compulsory purchase, unregistered rights, you know, around the world as well in the global south. And I think the technocratic solution has reached the buffers on many ages. Humanity is messy. People's rights, property rights are messy. The economic geography of the world is messy. And I think that's something that we need to grapple with. And basically, that's where professional qualifications and the use of professional conduct and ethics really start to come to the fore. So, just a bit more on the ambient spatial intelligence end of things. One of the other issues as well, I think, to be aware of is that AI does not have a legal personality. So that issue of trust and that definitive source of information, you know, essentially comes back to who's liable and who could potentially be sued for the use of that information. And I think that comes again to one of the previous speakers on the use of fake information and how people could potentially be, you know, I suppose influence to do things based on that type of information. So that single source of truth is very important. I think it's going to look quite different. I don't know about many of you, but the idea of having visualizations in my classes all the time is not something that I really look forward to. I think that's something that we've been talking about for quite a long time within geospatial, and I'm not sure it's going to get the kind of, I suppose, the grounding that the people want on that end of things. But those kind of issues then, just to come back to my bits at the end, geospatial ethics, incredibly important. I know many of you in this room are quite involved in that stuff, fairness, transparency, provenance of information. Interoperability as a public good. We're working a lot with the RGS and the civil engineers as well, so that kind of Venn diagram of where the professions interact with geospatial in the middle. Professional conduct in an automated world, how we go back to our basics of ethical behaviour, and also that trustworthy spatial information single source, and understanding the liability around data. If I could point you a Law Commission report on the use of AI is setting the groundwork for probably legislation that's going to come in over the next few years. So I think it's exciting, but I think at the moment, being a betting man, I could say go either way. What we're going to do. Okay, thanks, Seppi.